Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner, Mark Wages, and you are on the lifeboat. So, before we get rolling, we talked at the beginning of the second season about the sort of inside baseball kind of stuff, us sort of weighing in and letting you know some of the things that happen behind the scenes, and it's gone over pretty well. So we're going to do a little bit more of that today. Yesterday was not one of the best shows that I've ever done. And I don't mean subject matter. I'm happy as hell with the subject matter. But it was a little all over the place. You know, you get scattered sometimes. And so let me tell you how we do what we do. We have a slightly different method, I think, than the average show. There's never a script, right? And we don't, for the most part, unless it's really something new, we don't do bullet points. We don't do any of that. What we feel is, you know, with the amount of time that we've spent reading about this stuff and the amount of time that we spent, you know, doing all of the research, once it kind of becomes second nature, there's a goal that we want to get to by the end of the show. And then, you know, we just sort of go in there and let it fly. And sometimes that works really beautifully. You know, doing the whole without a net thing sometimes is really awesome. And you get little gems. A bunch of you said that the analogy about the person that fell off the ship, everybody was pretty happy with. And I assure you, I did not make that up until that moment. So sometimes those things happen. And sometimes I look like the name of my cat. And, you know, it's just sort of the way it is. So tonight, hopefully, we'll see if I squirrel a little less.
I would say too, Tommy, that I'm the same way. You guys already know
I
that.
believe that.
You know, I really am. We've actually had conversation in the background, guys, where I've actually told him, you know, I've asked his advice on how to stay focused. There were some things he told me what to do, you know, as far as like putting a sticker up there, you know, on my computer screen.
So yeah, to stare
at those kinds of things, and it does help. So that is something that me and Tommy really try to not do, and I do it on my other channel too. So it's just me, you know.
Yeah. That would be Wages World if you're new here.
But anyway, yeah, I wanted to say that too. So.
Yeah, I'm glad. So tonight, I bet that you're sitting there and you're probably thinking, didn't we do a show kind of like this the other day? And the thing is, we didn't. And I'll tell you why. We have a lot of new people, about 390 something in the last 28 days, which is awesome, right? And it will not keep going like that. It's just sort of not how it goes. If it did, we'd love that. But because we have a lot of new people, we get a lot of emails from people that are telling us what's going on in their life, and they're asking questions about the boat because we are a channel that goes live. It's not like people come on and go, oh, I saw a 6-minute video tonight, I'm going to go watch 40 more, right? Those kind of deep dives happen on other channels. With long form content, and we are long form content. They may go and pop 1 or 2 videos if it has a title that sort of catches their ear or something, but very rarely are they really going to dive deep. So sometimes some of the stuff that we take really for granted, the most basic stuff in the entire world, doesn't really come across because I don't drop it in every single show. So I had a really great email in terms of this person is just a really, really good communicator. And the question that was posed to me was, it said last night on the show, somebody asked, what is the best sobriety channel on the internet? And I didn't see that anybody answered them. The question is, what separates you from other channels or other methods of sobriety? Because you've said that really what makes you different is the people on the boat. But certainly people don't walk onto the boat with all of these people here and magically become sober, which I thought was a pretty damn good question. I mean, really. And last season, we went over some nuts and bolts stuff, and we probably haven't done it with the new crew. One of the words that gets bantied around more than any other when we talk about addiction and drug addicts is that the person is a loser. It gets brought up an awful lot. And for that reason, I think you're going to probably think this is nuts, but I'm going to take a stand on this issue. As we've said, it is documentable. I don't care what anybody says, there's the exit sign. If this one really chaps you, it's documentable that this is a disease. There's no longer any argument or, well, in your opinion, no. If you read what the 3 things need to happen to be a disease, they can document this thing. It is provable. Brain scans will show it 100 out of 100 times. So it is a different thing. Because of that, let's really keep it real for everybody. When you're in high school or you're a freshman in college or whatever, everybody experiments with drugs and alcohol. The small group of people who don't are an anomaly in a very big way. Sometimes they're people who are extremely religious, or they may be doing something with military, or they're on a team, although very often that doesn't, all those things either. But it is a very small group of people that don't experiment with, air quotes, recreational drugs. So if a small portion of those people are drug addicts before they start, right? Well, then certainly they're not losers. The difference between them and the person next to them might be their roommate, might be their best friend, it might be their friggin' sister, right? Or their brother. The difference between the person who thinks that they're a winner and who looks down their beak at their sibling as a loser takes place inside the brain without anybody doing anything to make that happen, right? That's just the way it is. So therefore, you're not a loser. You did what everybody else did. The only difference was as soon as that got lit, there was no chance ever of putting out that wick. Not water, not anything, right? You were going to go down that rabbit hole because you don't realize usually until you're really in the throes of it. It's just fun in the beginning, right? Until it isn't, and until it owns you. So if you're in that position, one of the things that we've been saying since the very beginning is, I don't want you beating the hell out of yourself. It's counterproductive. I mean, it's massively counterproductive, because one of the things that drives people back to use more than anything else is guilt. And guilt that is pointless, right? Guilt that really has absolutely no basis is the worst, right? Because you're not going to be able to really go back and work through whatever's going on in your mind to alleviate that guilt, because there's nothing there, right? It's just that you feel as if you really are a loser. You've talked yourself into it.
There you go, Tommy. Cujo says like a cucumber turning it into a pickle.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good analogy.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of them aren't going to be dipped.
Yeah.
Right? The only difference is that, it really does come down to chemistry, people. There's no other way around it. So we've always wanted people to realize that you shouldn't beat yourself up for becoming an addict. Okay? However, and this is the big however, we also say that you're going to take responsibility. You're going to own it. Please stop that, squirrel. And so you think to yourself, what is it I'm owning? If I am not, a loser, and this isn't my fault, then I don't really need to own any of this, do I? And this is where we start to differ. right? From a lot of other programs, so to speak. No, it is your responsibility. It is. Now, it becomes your responsibility once you are educated on the fact that your brain is different than everybody else's, right? And that you cannot go out there and use, right? We all went through this. Every addict I've ever met went through this. Well, I'm just going to smoke on the weekends, right? Or I'm just going to drink only on Friday nights. Or we just put one new rule after another, which we break usually within about 15 minutes. I mean, some people make it a little longer, but nobody ever is successful with that. Why? Because we don't have the capacity. All right. And if we do, if you're able to actually do that, I got news for you. You're not a drug addict, right? If they hooked you up to that brain scan, you wouldn't come out like your brother or sister. Right. Plain and simple. So once you're aware of that, now there's a responsibility on you. There really is, because you can't go back and do that. You know now that this is going to haunt you for the rest of your life, and that it isn't going to be easy. You know all of those things, but you also know that this can kill you, right? This isn't a joke. This can absolutely kill you. So you're going to take responsibility for the fact that, yeah, I started using drugs and maybe that wasn't such a great idea, right? It's not the end of the world. I'm not a loser for trying that, but I kept going. And maybe if I'd stopped in the beginning, so you take some responsibility for that. You don't blame it on your mother, your father, or any other reason that you think you may have started doing dope. You take responsibility for the fact that you started this, right? And then you take responsibility for anybody you hurt along the way, because we burn bridges, we burn forests, right? Entire cities get torched in the wake of a drug addict or an alcoholic, or we're all drug addicts, right? Alcohol's a drug, but we burn bridges. We destroy them. You got to take responsibility for that. Why? Because if not, the guilt is going to sneak back up on you and hit you in the back of the head with a hatchet while you're doing well. You're going to start getting a little something under your belt, and you're going to say, I'm really starting to do good, and I'm starting to work through maybe some of the reasons that I might have been drinking or drugging in the first place.
Hold on a minute, Tommy.
Go ahead.
Leisure says he's buffering. Is anybody else buffering? Make sure it ain't something on my end. I don't see anything. I just don't want us to keep moving if we're talking to the wall.
Yeah. We get a 5x5. Is anybody able to hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go for it, Tommy. We're good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Take a drink.
Yeah. So
let me ask him a question.
You start working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you start working through your problems, and what happens is that guilt sneaks up on you as you start to look back at your life to try to determine where things went off the rails or where you might have a problem. That guilt is going to eat away at you, and it's going to become your favorite excuse. It's going to be the thing that drives you back. And in the beginning, you may not even be conscious of it. It's just going to be that feeling, right? The feeling that makes you uncomfortable in your own skin. You can't explain it, right? We talked about this. What makes an addict an addict? They're not comfortable being themselves. The reasons for that, there are as many reasons as there are addicts, right? There's not one reason that makes us that way, but I promise you we're all that way, right? And in some cases, you got people that say, you know what? I can't talk to people. I just am cripplingly introverted. And then the first time I drank 4 beers, I didn't care about any of that, and for that person, this is going to sound crazy, but for that person, it was a good drug, right? This helped them come out of their shell. It helped them not worry about consequences. And it may have actually propelled them in a direction that may benefit them in life. The problem becomes if they do it every single day, and that becomes the only way they can talk to people. Now we have problems, right? Now we have addicts. And very oftentimes, that's a very easy thing to identify. If you say the first time I drank or the first time I drugged, I felt like I could talk to members of the opposite sex. I felt like I could get up in front of people and communicate and do it. Look, we don't need to do psychotherapy to figure out exactly why you became addicted, right?
I think
the point being, go ahead.
Linda made a comment here. She says she's been reliving a lot this last week. I think a lot of us go through that this time of year, especially. Between now and probably the 1st of January is a very, very difficult time for addicts. And here's the thing, it's healthy as hell. It really is. We say this all the time, and there's a lot of science now to back it up. The problem is the underlying condition.
right? The drug or the alcohol, that's the symptom, right? It's not the problem, it's the symptom. And the problem is something that drove you to drink or drove you to do drugs. And it doesn't knock on your door, right? You don't get the knock, knock, knock. Hey, how you doing, Tommy? I'm the reason you drink, right? Maybe we could, shake hands and let me introduce myself. It's a voyage of self-discovery. And you know what? It sucks. It's not fun. Most people really struggle with going through that, but it's healthy and you will end up better on the backside. So what are the rules for that? If you start feeling like it's overwhelming and you start feeling uncomfortable in your skin, don't be alone, right? Get out of the room that you're in and start talking to somebody instantly. Get on the phone, do a Skype, whatever you got to do to start talking to somebody who's also a drug addict, right? Call a sober person. Even when we're fresh in the game, when we're not even good yet at being sober ourselves, we're damn good at helping other people, right? It's so much easier to give advice to somebody else than it is to actually follow that advice. And very often, hell, 9 out of 10 times, if you make a phone call to somebody that you know who is in recovery prior to calling the dope man or getting in the car to drive to get booze, it's going to work. We've talked about this. It's a very short period of time that you have to get through. And I get emails of people that say, it's not short for me, man. I will sit and think about that, for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. But it would have been 10 minutes if you got up, got out, made a phone call, did whatever. If you feed into it, if you concentrate on it, you're literally meditating on the drug you're trying to quit, whether you realize it or not. You're sitting in a room meditating on the drug you're trying to quit. If you get through that day without using, well, that's a miracle. And miracles do not come by 365 days in a row. So we can't count on that. You have to have things in place. So what makes us different? If you show up here and you're being, let's call it real, you're aware of what's going on, right? You're aware of the fact that you have this disease, but you're choosing to get drunk every day anyway, right? That's not winning, people. That's losing. It is. The responsibility is now square on your shoulders. Yeah, you got a disease, but you know what that disease is, right? And that could be any other disease. If you say, hey, the doctor says, Mark, got to talk to you about something. You have diabetes, right? If Mark gets in his car and goes and buys a 12-pack of Hershey's chocolate bars and eats them on the way home, he's not winning, right? What he's doing is absolutely a horrible behavior because of what ailment he has. Well, if you continue to drink and drug, you know better. The difference is we're not going to beat you up for that. If you show up here, we're never going to shame you, especially in a group of people. It doesn't mean that if I work with you one-on-one or you call me, I might not give you some crap. But I'm never going to do it here, and I'm never going to be mean about it. I'm never going to kick somebody out. But a really good thing, and this is just going to sound like I'm a jerk, but I'm going to do it anyway. It would be great if I could work with 3,000 people, right? That would be awesome. Or if I could work with 1,500, Mark could work with 1,500. Guess what? There's no chance of that happening. So you prioritize. You try to work with people that really seem to be struggling, right? And how do we find that out? We get emails, right? You email us and we realize by scanning through them who really needs some one-on-one kind of stuff.
It's kind of like triaging.
It is. Yeah. It's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's triage. That's perfect, Mark. Absolutely perfect. So what happens is we're gonna take some time and we're gonna work with people one-on-one. I have one request, and they're gonna go, man, I can't believe he said that. Don't waste our time. I don't mean don't slip up, don't fall off the wagon. These things happen, right? Don't waste my time. If you really and truthfully, honestly know in the back of your head that you're not done, and there are people who know that. I was that guy. I would sit in NA meetings and listen to every single thing that they said, knowing it was the stone cold truth, and then fix in my car, right? I wasn't ready. I wasn't. And I'll be really honest. There were times I wasted the time of a lot of people who could have been working with other people. If you need to watch 2 more years of this, right, and make a lot more friends and really get acclimated before you're ready to quit, I'm not mad at you.
Something else, Tommy, real quick, I'll add right there, is that it's okay to tell us that you're not ready.
Absolutely it is.
That way
We're not going to judge you.
It's going to help us help you, because we may have ways that what we went through to get you to the point where you are ready. We might have some advice to throw at you to let you see that, hey, maybe you are ready and you don't even know it. Those kinds of things. So just don't be afraid to say that. We're not going to be mad. We're not going to.
No, and it becomes real evident, because what happens is this: you get an email from someone that says, I saw you on the show. I said I was, you told me to reach out. I really want to quit this. It's killing me. This is my drug. This is what I'm doing. And you fire off about 8 questions to them and say, tell me what these are. And then we'll get together on the phone. And the questions are, you could figure them out without me, right? Drug of choice, when you started doing it, right? All of the standard questions anybody would ask you if they were trying to find out how you abuse drugs. How do you do it? You snort it, you shoot it, you smoke it. You figure out all of those things. Do you know how many times that email goes out and we never hear back from the person?
Yeah.
Because right when they were watching this show, the window was open. They really liked the idea.
Yep.
And then the show is over. And what happens?
Yep.
Now it's you, yourself, and you. And what do addicts? We don't like being us.
Nope.
We're super uncomfortable when we're left to our own devices. There is some reason for every one of us to feel like we're just not quite right. And the easiest way to make that go away?
To use
your poison.
Yep.
Right? Whatever the hell that poison has to be. For some people, it's weed. For some people, it's a needle. For some people, it's a straw up their nose.
And to let us,
go ahead.
Yeah, that's what. When you guys see Tommy say, "Hey, we're getting ready to end the show. Call me right now." He says that for a reason, guys, because he knows. He knows if he goes ahead and walks away and goes eat dinner, and he's going to be thinking about it all the time anyway. I know how he is, because I do the same thing. We go away and we do our thing for an hour. That is not there anymore. That window has shut. There is nothing there for us to even talk about at that point. It's just really like that. And Damon here said a really good thing, Tom. I'm not sure if you've seen his comment or not. He said he doesn't know really why he chose to quit. He said, other than I was tired of drinking, etc., I don't know. Feels like I'm lacking a meaningful reason. There's nothing. You don't have to have a meaningful reason. The fact that you wanted to quit, there was a reason somewhere in your head. Something was telling you, hey, I got to quit this. So there's reasons.
If I just saw Jonathan Hicks's, look, man, Jonathan, if you knew the number of people that have done that without you reminding me, honestly, brother, I mean, maybe you're just being funny and you didn't do that, because the number of people I would say that's 9 out of 10. So when we say the window is open only for a second and then it closes, that's the truth. Well, here's my advice. Don't delete the email, right? The next time the window opens, answer those questions, fire it back to me. Then maybe a week later, that window's going to open again and you might have the courage to get on the phone, right? I know this is a process and I know that this is a hard process, but whatever you do, keep watching, because you're going to hear things, not necessarily from me or Mark, but you're going to hear people just like that comment. I'm not really sure why I did it, right? If you're waiting for that epiphany, if you're waiting for that moment where the clouds open up, right? All of a sudden, I know this is it. This is the day. This is my rock bottom. I got news for you. You can hit 9 rock bottoms. You can keep bottoming out and keep proving that that hole goes really deep, right? I took it to levels that were just ridiculous. I did see a comment that said, I always feel like I don't want to reach out because, I think you guys are busy or whatever. Oh, for the love of God.
If we ever put that off, right? Gosh, if we've done that, please tell us. I mean, you know what I mean? Guys, I'm sorry I jumped in right there. That hit me. Like, you're absolutely, because we do get this constantly. Almost every email we get, and I don't say this often enough on the show, but just about every single, 5 rock bottom, says Tommy Bird. Every email we get, especially the first 1 or 2 of them, starts with, "I'm really sorry to bother you." Always. If that was bothering me, you think I'd be here? Exactly.
Right? For real. this is what we do. This is what we're trying to do. And the rewards, the payoffs are so good. I'm going to put somebody on the spot right now, and I didn't ask him first, but I have a feeling it would not bother him. I really think I got an email from Tommy Bird yesterday that just floored me. And the payout for what we do, there are emails that come in where people say things and you go, I am never going to delete this. I am literally going to keep this email for the rest of my life. And when they come with a photo attached, I'm going to cry, guaranteed.
Yeah.
But it's the reason that we do what we do. And I just, don't think for a second, you're bothering us, or, we're too busy. If we get to a point where we're too busy, then we're going to assign people for real.
And
if we got to bring in a staff.
That's what we're thinking. We've been talking about that, haven't we, Tommy?
We have been.
And it's not going to be like any kind of a paid position, especially at first. It's just something that, we try to facilitate, guys. And I know you guys see it. I know you do, because we try to facilitate something, have an avenue for all you guys to go to at any given time. That's why we have the Facebook group. That's why we have multiple emails you can reach out to. That's why, and I don't see how this could ever happen, but if you ever get to the point where you can't get a hold of nobody, there's 100% of the time there is a number at the bottom right hand corner of our live shows. Somebody there, you can call that hotline. They will find you somebody to talk to right away, no matter what time of night. It's just it's better than nothing, is what I'm trying to say.
It is. No question. But right now you're all in the sweet spot.
Yep.
For real. I mean, right now you're in the sweet spot. I'll be really honest. The vast majority of people get really uncomfortable talking to the person who is on the show. Not because they think we're Brad Pitt. They just think we're super sober, right? And, we are like the soberest person ever. And, sobriety was like so easy for us that you're going to say things we've never heard, right? It's going to be just the foulest of foul. I robbed banks. I went to prison for bank robbery. There's no judgment there. And I'm a pretty nice guy, for the most part.
I spent my son's Christmas money the day after on pills.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that show too.
When you guys start thinking bad about yourselves, think about the two guys that are out here trying to help.
In a snowstorm,
and
almost killed him in the process of spending his money.
Yeah, I reckon.
No, I'm not being mean, but that was a hell of a story.
You're right, and that's what I'm trying to say, guys. Think back to those things that me and Tommy say when you're feeling bad about yourself, like you don't deserve help. Let me tell you something. All of us, none of us really deserve it, but all of us deserve it.
That's exactly right.
And it's because we're never ever going to feel like we deserve it, guys. We just won't. It's just not going to happen. There is some guilt there, and like we've talked about, guys. So that guilt, we have to address that, and we have to try to separate what's good and bad there.
Amen. Because it will drive you. Zenwen, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And she had a comment earlier talking about going to meetings wasted. All of the time when you do something and you think, I can't believe I did this. I literally snuck a bottle of booze into an AA meeting. If you say that out loud, 70 people in the room will go, yeah, I've done that.
Yep.
I've done that. Or I shot up in the bathroom of, an NA meeting. Oh yeah, I've done that. I used to stash a syringe in there, right? Because they started patting people down at the door. So I used to keep a little, stash in there. How about this one? When my second child was being born, I got tossed out of the hospital for filling up 20 syringes off the epidural bag. It leaked all over the floor. They looked down and went like this. And the women looked at me and went, you got to be kidding. And I was like, huh? What? She's like, get out. Get out. Yeah.
And she knew she had you pegged right away, man.
Well, and my wife had been in rehab already, right? So my wife just looked over from the bed like, you piece of, Yeah, not one of my high points. Now,
but see,
if you're sitting there thinking, how do you live with that? Because I really wholeheartedly believe that up until that point where, like, I just thought there was something really, really screwed up with me. I thought I was born evil, that I bought into a lot of what society said, right? I was a loser. I had no moral fiber whatsoever. I was a liar. I was a dirtbag. And I mean, this was my opinion of myself. And I remember, honestly, the first person who really explained this stuff. And all of a sudden I'm like, it's a disease. So I got high, but from that point forward, I was in deep trouble because I'm different than everybody else.
Right.
And at the time, they weren't, the scans were not out yet. So it was still very arguable,
Right.
but I clung to that way before the scans because it helped me.
Yeah.
You know, now I could say to myself, nobody in their right mind would stick 20 needles into their wife's epidural bag, right? Nobody in their right mind walks into a bank and says, put the money in the bag. Nobody in their right mind spends their kids' Christmas money and does it in a snowstorm the day after Christmas. Almost kills them in the process, right? Nobody in their right mind does that.
And I know
we're not in our right mind.
It's shocking to hear that. I get it, guys. I really do. You don't expect to hear that from me and Tommy, other than the fact that we do come out and say it. And I think,
right.
I really do think, Tommy, that's what kind of sets us apart from a lot of other things.
Well, owning it.
Yeah, we're so transparent about things. It's just.
Well, there's two really great things about being transparent. Number one, the guilt isn't going to sneak up on you. And number two, when you get people who don't like you, and that happens to us from time to time, and they go, you're nothing but it's all out there, man. What are you going to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I told the entire world everything there is to know about me. It's liberating when all of that is confessed. And I don't mean, you don't have to do it. I did go to the people that I harmed, but I didn't do most of them until I was 5 or 6 years sober. And the reason I didn't is I did not think there was a chance in hell I could get through that encounter without getting high. And I wasn't going to risk that. And the sobriety meant so much to me at that point that if I had to go the rest of my life without apologizing, I'm really sorry, but my sobriety comes before everything. It comes before friends. It comes before family. It comes before everything, because without it, I got nothing.
You got nothing. Without
nothing.
That has to come from
no religion, no friends, no family, no spirituality,
takes over.
Right? And no possessions, right?
And I would say
she is listening while cleaning her car. That's going the extra mile.
That's what I'm talking. Hey,
pretty impressed.
Mine's kind of dirty. If you want to come take care of our car too, my wife would probably appreciate that. Anyway, I would say on what you just said there that, as far as, going back to people and trying to apologize for what you've done and all that and being transparent. And I've said this so many times, probably not enough really. And I know, but I said it a lot, that the best time to do that is the moment you get help.
No question.
I mean, there is no other place in time that you're ever going to be afforded any more forgiveness than right then. Because if you wait and you just let that stuff still pick at you, people are going to ask you questions. They're going to be, especially your close family. It happened to me. I'm sure it happened to Tommy. Hey, because you've talked about the conversations you had with your dad. I told you about lying to my wife for no freaking reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for no reason, I had to go back and tell her, but guess what? When I went back and told her I lied to her, it was 30 seconds. It wasn't 30 days. This is what I'm trying to say. So when you start seeing yourself do those things, slip back into those kinds of routines, because you will. You're going to naturally want to go back there. And
it's even more than that, right? It's like, honestly, people, it's the red button causes the door to open, right? Well, in our brain, the red button causes me to lie.
Yep.
And I had to break that, and it took,
it's
half
hard.
a decade.
It's freaking
because
hard.
Honestly, that is developed. We've talked about this before, and I'll look, there are things I'm going to beat to death. Rote learning, they call it, right? So that you could basically do this show, because the more you understand this, the more you'll realize that it really is not your fault, right? If we had to make a decision and think about every single thing we were going to do before we did it, we couldn't get through the day. We'd get 2 hours worth of stuff done, but we could talk on the phone, right? Driving with my knee, eating a hamburger, right? No problem ever, because that's all reactive brain. I don't have to think about any of that stuff.
Right.
Tying your shoe, greatest example ever, right? When you first started, it was so difficult. Now you can tie your shoe while not looking and talking to somebody because the striatum takes over. That part of your brain that just says, all right, the switch gets thrown. I'm going to tie the shoe. I'm going to drive this car, right? The science now says between 70 and 85% of everything we do is just a reaction.
Right.
Well, my reaction was to lie.
Yeah.
And my reaction was, if I'm hurting, I'm going to go do some dope. And if I'm feeling really good, I'm going to go do some dope. Right. And every other emotion in between. Why? Because I was hellaciously uncomfortable being me.
Yep.
I had to pretend to be somebody else.
Yep.
That was the only way that I could get through the day. I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I had to use dope to pretend to be somebody else. And you craft these characters. And I know there's people listening to me who are thinking I did that, right? Either you weren't cool enough, you weren't hip enough, you weren't, you wanted to come across a little bit edgier, right? You were hanging out with the tough crowd. But as you started to do it, what happens is the next thing you know, 5 years has gone by. And that character that you developed is now you.
Yep.
Right? That's how you're living your life. And unfortunately, when there's nobody around for you to show that character to, and you're sitting there being yourself, you're going to be miserable. And the only way to make that go away is either do some dope, right? Or get sober.
Right.
And I don't mean get chemical free, because chemical free will drive you nuts. You'll still get that feeling. You got to get sober.
Right.
And that's a process, and it's a long one, and it is not easy. But I swear to you, it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yep. I want to throw in what Miss B said here too, because I think it's kind of the other side of what we're talking about. So she wants to make amends with her mother, but again, here, guys, it kind of ties in because now there's time has passed, and she says, but I feel like if I was going to do that, I would want to get high right after. She is scary. Now I get that. I feel that. I really truly do. And if you really think that you're going to put yourself in that situation, don't. Wait until you're ready, or find somebody that knows your situation. Maybe take them with you. Don't go at it by yourself if you can. If you have somebody that can go with you, and these are just suggestions. I don't know the whole specific situation, but those are little things, and you don't have to do it all at once either. Especially after time has passed, you can kind of pick at it. Let her see that you're doing good. Let her see that you're not that person anymore. Let her see that you're doing well. Just a little at a time, little bits, and that stuff will, just like the bad little bits build up to the big things, so do the good little bits. It all does the same. So anyway,
very often too, we may not see somebody for a decade, right? Or you may not see somebody for 7 or 8 years, and your memory of that person, you were at a different place in your life. Very often people, you may have seen somebody for the last time, as an example, when you were 8. You could be 30 now, but that person walks in the room and you're 8, right? So there are things that you can do, and there are exercises that, you can do to make her a whole lot less scary, right? Because now you're a grown woman and you're tough as hell. You've proven that, right? So, but there's a lot that can be done. You should email us. I would love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, and something else you could do is you could pull the old, and this is doing this kind of for a little bit of comic relief because that got really serious really quick. But to pull the old water boy trick, look across the sidelines and picture the old mean coach with the little doggy and the baby face.
Right.
So yeah, no, there is, like Tommy said, there is a lot of different tools and techniques you can use. But again, there's a lot of things that me and Tommy are not going to be able to give you specifics on because we just don't know the whole family dynamic. And first off, again, we're not doctors, we're not counselors, we're just trying to share our lives and what we've learned. So please
absolutely. What has worked for us, and through observation of a lot of people, right? One of the things that was glaring to me, you have to realize that the vast majority of what you would call study, right, that I did, while I was reading all of this stuff and immersing myself in this exclusively, like literally this was it. I was in prison, and I was surrounded by people who, with no exception, were in there for drugs because the unit that I was in was a drug unit. We were there for counseling and everything else. And you could sit and watch the people who took responsibility for the things that got them there, took responsibility for the drugs they did, took responsibility for their errors. And you could watch the people that didn't. There was always a group of people in there. And if you said to them, how did you, what sent you to prison? Oh, my wife ratted on me. Right. So you were doing nothing wrong, right? You were at work, just hammering away with a hammer, right? Building a house. And all of a sudden the cops came and arrested you for no freaking reason. Right. But it's an extreme example. But as addicts, there's always somebody else whose fault it is. And when you build your sobriety on a straw man, eventually the reality will hit, right? You will have that epiphany that, you know what? Mom was crappy, but she didn't put a needle in my arm. Or dad beat me, but I'm the one that did this, right? And I swear to you, people, over the course of a long time, and I had some great conversations with 2 different counselors there. And this was something I was very curious about. Do you encourage it? Because let's be really honest. When you start taking responsibility for the things that you have done, there's a crap load of weight that comes with that. It's not an easy process. And if you go to a rehabilitation center on the street, or you're paying for something, they want the highest success rate possible. I'll be really honest with you. They don't care where you're at in 5 years. But they want someone to be able to leave there. When my first wife went to counseling for alcoholism and heroin abuse, the counselors told her in no uncertain terms that it was her dad and me. We were the reason that she was doing dope. First, her dad, because he was a drinker and she caught that, as a kid, watching him drink. I don't know if there's any truth to that. When I remember finding a bottle in the house and showing it to her, and her response was, "Oh my God, he drinks." But somehow, maybe in the subconscious, she saw dad drink. This was their theory. And then, I was the driving force that kept her using. Is there truth to that? I don't have any idea. I don't. I mean, we got high together. Very well could be my fault. Very well could be my fault. But she owned nothing. She put it off on other people and was happy as a lark. Within a couple of months of walking out of there, she was walking on sunshine. And the crash came about 4 years later. Now, she didn't use. God bless her, she didn't use. But she went through a tailspin and a depression and actually wrote me a letter apologizing, which is astounding. And wrote one to a couple of other family members doing the same thing.
Wow. Wow.
You know what?
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Good to see you, JJ. Good to see you, Joe.
Hey, JJ.
Good to see you, Miss Joanne. Glad you're here. I have to say something to you, too, here. You really, really hit me hard the other night talking. I thought about that for, all night long, I think. You're a strong woman. I can tell you that. That I know for certain. And it's no surprise that you beat whatever you beat to me. So after hearing what you've been through, I didn't, again, guys, me and Tommy, we don't talk about what you guys tell us together unless we're told, please share with the other person, or you can talk to them about it. If we want to talk to each other about it, we will always ask you. So just know that too. We haven't said that in a while. I feel like that.
We haven't said that in a while.
We
also haven't said, do us a favor, hit that like button. I think it's got a thumb up, right? Smack that thing. Let's get the algorithm going. And if you want to leave a comment, that's always good too. Niall, I agree with you. Niall says part of addiction is numbing the senses and the moral compass. This does not mean it comes back. It means acceptance of who you are. I agree. And I'll be honest. I spent a great deal of time meditating, for lack of a better term, after, a comment that you had made that, very oftentimes addicts don't slay their demons. They just learn to walk with them. And I think that there's something to that. And I think that it's one of the other reasons that I beat the drum about owning things for real. Because if you're going to walk with those demons for the rest of your life, you probably ought to do it with a little bit of honesty. Now, I'm not telling anybody to take responsibility for something they didn't do. If you got sent to prison, right, and you did nothing wrong, you were literally clean, take responsibility for the things that you did in this, right? You can say, I got a disease. Well, you use me as an example perfectly. I got a disease of the mind that caused me to be a heroin addict, right? That is exactly what the I'm not a loser part is. Then I just did dope for about 2 or 3 years, guaranteeing that I was going to become addicted to it, right? With no chance of ever coming back. Nobody forced me. Nobody forced that to happen. That was all me. That was all me. And then I got to take responsibility for the people in my family that I lied to for decades. And the piece that came from that was huge, absolutely huge. And I do walk with demons, and there are days that they're tougher than others. And on those days, people on this boat hear from me, right? My bobble-headed partner can tell you, if I'm having a bad day, he'll know about it.
Yep.
Because I have come to believe that communication is the magic bullet. Communication is what gets you from 11 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock the next day without screwing up. Because for me, that's really the power zone. Like if something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen about an hour before midnight.
Yep.
Right out, unable to sleep, laying in bed and thinking about why I'm so uncomfortable. And when that feeling starts coming back, man, I'll get up, I'll go outside, I'll stare at the stars, and everyone knows that feeling. Every addict has, people nodding right now. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, don't let it happen, right? Get up, do some push-ups, man. Do whatever you got to do. And there are people that have been calling and working on this who literally said, I started doing the push-up thing. That got me through the first couple of days. I don't care what other things you got to do, right? If that stops working, go outside, take a tour.
Yep.
Get a dog, walk the hell out of it.
Something.
Right? Get a cat and play with her. Let her drive you nuts. But the points of connection give you silver.
Yep.
And I believe just wholeheartedly in that.
Try to involve all your senses too. Try to involve every one of your senses. And I know that again we've talked about that before, but the thing of it is, music is huge for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But I wanna throw a little caution flag out there on that one too. Just like, appetite for destruction is Tommy's thing that he will not listen to, because that's what he used to do when he was getting high. So recognize those things too. I recommend, and this is just my opinion, okay, try to find something new, a song that you've never heard, a group you've never listened to, because you're trying to create new memories at the same time. So if you're able to do things like that, your mind, that's not going to be a trigger for you. It's going to go somewhere else, right? So when you're feeling that way, try to, guys, nowadays with the way technology is, you could simply put in a Google search, hey, music that makes you feel good. Or modern popular music that makes you feel good. If you want to hear something from the radio, those kinds of things. It's so simple to find things like that, and we would be ridiculous not to use the positive parts of the internet when there are so many negatives of it. So we have to use those kinds of things, and it's just another tool. For me, I do that. I really honestly do. I will sit down if I have to go in my room and just shut the freaking door for 10 minutes, turn my phone on, and be like, hey, I got to do, just do this for a second, just so I can get my mind back to center. And we won't have to tell you. Somebody probably is not going to have to tell you. You're going to know that you need to do this. It's just a matter of actually getting off your couch and doing it. And this is key this season. This season right now, going through winter, this is key for sobriety. You have to keep moving forward. You can't find yourself laying on the couch all the time. I did it for 3 years, guys. It was hell. It was hell in my own mind. I was destroying myself, and I didn't even know it, and it wasn't intentional. Nobody, like Tommy said earlier, we don't wake up saying, hey, we want to go do this and go do that. Nobody wakes up, says, hey, I want to be a drug addict. Nobody ever says that kind of crap. Nobody ever feels like that. You might wake up and say, hey, I want to go do this or go do this and feel good. But nobody ever wants to be a drug addict. That makes you the definition of crazy.
Yep.
And it's a disease.
Absolutely.
That's the part that's actually part of the disease. It really is. So we have to recognize all those things and just keep moving
Niall,
forward.
Niall used an analogy that I actually dig. You know, he said to use a different analogy. It's like ignoring a slowly growing tumor in your brain, or one on your neck, right? So that every time you look in the mirror, you're looking at a golf ball, a baseball, a softball, and yet you just continue to let it roll. And that really is like the nature of the disease. And for needle guys, like I watched people lose arms, right? I can think of 4 right now off the top of my head, guys that shot up and the arms started to get infected, and you'd see them 2 days later and go, "Hey, you got to go to a hospital, brother. I mean, look at your arm." And there was this thing going around, this paranoia, especially in this city, that if you went there, they were going to call the cops. The cops were going to come arrest you, and and we'd say, doctors don't do that, right? There's client, privilege. They're never going to tell anybody anything, but these people would try to clean stuff themselves and lance it. And at that point in life, a lot of these guys are, basically haven't washed their hands in 2 or 3 months, and they're cutting into flesh, and you just keep denying it. It's that kind of disease. If I just ignore this, perhaps it will go away. If I just ignore this, and I was right, it's just going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to get bigger and bigger. And you know what else?
I would say
Brandon said there's something. There really is something to putting your toes into grass.
Yes, there
and
is.
I can tell you that the first time I did that, after getting out, and it was honestly, it was one of the things that I was looking forward to most, was just taking off shoes and sort of sitting there with my feet on something other than pavement.
You guys understand that there's science behind that, right? I hope everybody understands that, because I've researched this. It's called grounding. Just like you got to ground your electricity, we are magnetic electrical beings. So if you don't ground out every once in a while, it does throw you off electrically. What do you think happens in your brain when there's a thought is getting processed? It's an electrical firing in your brain. That's what's going on. And and Damon asks the question here too: do you all think you could have a genetic predisposition to addiction? Absolutely.
Well, he said both of my parents, right, are addicts. Not sure if my addiction is nature or nurture. Both. Absolutely both, right? And the reason it is, Damon, is because let's just say, hypothetically, that, mom and dad were both addicts, but you just never took that first drink, or you never took that first smoke. You never did any drugs. Well, then, the nurture could have saved your life, right? Or could have saved you from addiction. However, the predisposition to it meant that if you did go down that road, that's the nature part of it. And I guarantee you it's a little bit of both. That's pretty much a lock. I have a daughter, who's 18 years old. She's closing in rapidly on 19 years old. She's in college. She's a great girl. But her mother's an alcoholic and a heroin addict. Clean. I think she's been clean, 18 years, 17 and a half, 18 years. And dad, you all know what I am. So, at a very young age, we started talking with it. And, you can't make decisions for your kids. But she definitely realizes that, boy, that first drink could really be a problem. And certainly, if you take some pain medication, forget about it, And now, could there be a chance she didn't get it? Yeah, it's possible, but you're rolling the dice with your life. And is it, I don't know, is it really that important? If you've never had it before, maybe you're better off just not doing it, but can't make the decisions for her. I can just lecture the hell out of her.
Yeah. I'm going to ask ask a question, guys. Just a little bit of a inside baseball question type of stuff that means absolutely nothing to addiction recovery. Do you guys like the background better like that? Do you guys think it looks better, more clean, more, I don't know, professional, I guess, if you want to use those words? I don't know, Tommy, have you had a chance to check it out? What do you think about it?
Say it one more time.
What's that?
What am I looking at? Sorry, I was reading a comment.
No, the background stuff that I changed. The graphic.
You know what? I spend so little time looking at it.
Okay, no, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
yeah,
I like the color. the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I dig that.
That's cool.
And I kind of like that it's off center, but I think these guys probably going to make the decision on it since they stare at this thing for
No.
long.
I mean, that's why I asked them.
Yeah.
I just.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, we got our first. I like it.
All right. Cool.
We got our second. Looks good.
Yep. I just thought that I try to clean it up a little bit as we move forward. I want to make the production of it the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Well,
that I can.
and you can also get bored looking at the same thing for
over and over.
we've been
again.
here
Yep.
a hot minute, right?
Yep. So I figured we'll go back to the flag scene and stuff around the holidays and stuff like that when we get back around to it. But yeah, I just thought maybe that looked a little. I just wanted you guys' opinion. That's all.
Would that be? I see Chris CC Water. Would that be Creedence Clearwater?
I love that.
Huh? We got a Creedence fan, or is that just a coincidence?
CC Water 99. 99. That he'd be a young one.
Right?
Yeah.
Or Woodstock 99, and he caught
Maybe.
Creedence there.
Maybe. Easier to pay attention to. Tommy, not the background. Yeah. That's kind of what I was telling Tommy the other day. I thought the whole graphic thing was getting a little busy. Ain't that what I told you, Tommy? It just kind of felt like it was getting busy to me too. So if you guys ever think that kind of stuff, please tell me. I don't want to distract from anything. Even as far as how fast the scroll's moving on the bottom. Tell me. You want it slower, faster, whatever, if something's distracting you. But I do want to draw attention to the bottom left there. I did change that number. We are at, what are we at? I can't even, I got my stuff so minimized. We are at 1,119,072 days sober here on this channel. Now, again, obviously, that is not an exact, because you can't do it.
Yeah, no, it's impossible to do an exact, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's close. That's a close.
It really is.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yep, it's awesome, guys. And that's
and then David says that sadly it was he got high with his with mom. So yeah, I would say that nurture was definitely playing a big part of that. But you break that cycle. You got kids now. You break that cycle. It's literally the most important thing you could do ever.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing could be more important than that. And it really gives you an opportunity to change the world. Before we end, I really want you to think about that concept. When one person gets sober, the world is never the same. The number of people that one sober person affects literally changes history, right? And my grandkids, my great grandkids, I don't have any yet, but they're going to have a much different life because I didn't continue doing the things that I was doing, right? All of the different, everybody listening to me today, right, would be listening to somebody else. And, this is a channel that's had a lot of positive effects from bringing a group of people like this together, right? And, without that one sober person, think about throwing a rock in a pond. Now, Niall had left a comment earlier. Are the odds in our favor? No, they're not. Honestly, the odds are not in your favor. Statistically speaking, most people fail. If I were you, I would say that's okay. This one ain't failing, right?
Yep.
Seriously, that's the way it has to be. And it's why your sobriety has to be before every single thing on the planet. Plain and simple. There are a lot of people are going to fail, and the odds are against it. With my drug, it's like a 90% something failure rate. I'll be in the 10.
That's right.
Just never going back to that crap. It's the most important thing in the world to me.
Jeff K, I would bring you in, but we're at the end of the show, bud. Sorry, you were in here earlier, and I had to put you in the waiting room because you were messing with your video, and then you popped out. You didn't come back until just now. So if you want to call in first thing to, was it Friday? Yeah. First thing Friday when we're back on, we'll get you in right away, okay?
All right, sounds good. All righty, people. That brings us to the top of the hour, and we would not want to turn into a pumpkin or have the big red button angry at us.
Thank you, DJ.
Hey, you know what? Really, really great show tonight. Everybody was really engaged.
Yep.
This is when the boat is at its best, right? When everybody is having conversations and you're learning from virtually every single person out there. If you want to go back and look at this tomorrow, watch how many times somebody complimented somebody on making a great point, right? At which time Mark and I, right, we're just up here making sure that everybody else is talking, right? This is how it's supposed to This is how it's supposed to work. You guys are great. On the way out, slap the hell out of that like button. And if you're
Share it.
not subscribed to the channel, right, I will sick squirrel on you. You have no idea how viciously tough this cat can be. You've only seen her in the chilled out position. The rest of the day, she's an animal. Alrighty, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
And this is a fierce animal in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.